What's up, bitches?
Let's talk about crime.
What's up, bitches?
Hello.
I'm disappointed.
Oh, because of Brian Koberger?
I'm so disappointed.
I'm just disappointed because I want to know what the fuck they had.
So Dad told me that they supposedly said that after he is sentenced, they will release all of the information that has been.
Oh, I fucking hope so.
Hush, hush. I am disappointed. I am not disappointed for the families and for the victims, because this would have been a horrific thing for them to have to relive. What I am disappointed in is the fact that he has been, nope, it's not me, which I get it. They all do. But like to the point where all the way up until his trial was set to start, he was like, we have other people that we think are involved. And I'm just assuming that his lawyers probably got some information and they were like, well, this is what they have. And he was like, oops, I'm cooked. So therefore he saved himself from getting the death penalty. So I understand that there's a reason for it, but I also am disappointed because like we don't get to hear all the trial stuff. However, I am happy for the victims and the families of the victims because they don't have to relive it. And now they know that he's going to be in jail forever. But I truly believe that if this is as premeditated as they've made it sound, he just deserves to be dead. And what's really crazy about it is part of the reason I was disappointed is because that came out the day after our last podcast came out. We were like, oh, we're so excited. And then I was like, what? Like one day late. So
literally
now
they
anybody
announced it and then
so anybody who listens to it, they're like, he's already pleading guilty. So anyways, I'm assuming he'll get like 4 life sentences without parole and he'll never get out of jail. But I actually also think there's a chance. I mean, there's always a chance that he just won't live long in jail like any other person. So I am very curious. Your dad wanted to watch actually a documentary last night, and it was a Brian Koberger documentary. It was like what happened in Idaho. And I told him I will not be watching those. And he was like, why? And I said, because everything has been so hush hush. All those documents.
Yeah, how the fuck do you have more information?
Exactly.
Oh, that's right. You don't.
That's what I told him. I said, all of those documentaries are full of shit. I said, they're literally taking all of the basic information that we all have had and they're trying to turn it into this really long drawn out thing. And I was like, and the thing is, nobody has any other information. So everything that I would find out on these documentaries are all the same things. The thing is, they will put into it and swing it their own way. And it's like, no, I'd rather just wait until I know all the real information that comes out. And then I don't think anybody should do a documentary on it because I don't think Brian Koberger should be able to profit off of his murder. Period. Anyways, that is that. So we won't be talking about the Brian Koberger case anymore because he has officially pleaded guilty. So for those of you that didn't know, he officially pleaded guilty and now we're just waiting until he gets sentenced. But we're not here to talk about Brian Koberger. We are here to talk about somebody else. Bear with me very much so. I tried really hard to get this name right. If I say it wrong, I apologize. I've practiced. I even have it like throughout all of my notes, like the enunciation, but I just am an idiot sometimes. What are we talking about today? Well, we are talking about the year 2019, and this is in Utah.
Wow, this is a recent one.
It is a recent one.
Compared to normal.
Now, 23-year-old Mackenzie Lueck is reported missing. Her body is later found, and Ayoola Ajayi was held accountable. Now, for the rest of this episode, I'm just going to call him Ayoola because that's an easier part. His last name is very difficult for me. So we're going to start with a little bit of background on Mackenzie. So Mackenzie was born March 8th, 1996, and she was raised in El Segundo in Los Angeles, California. She had 3 brothers, 1 older and 2 younger. She went to El Segundo High School, and she was on the swim team. She also played water polo. She does end up moving on and attending the University of Utah. Now, she was majoring at the University of Utah in kinesiology and pre-nursing, and she had also become a part of the Alpha Chi Omega sorority. So just like doing the damn thing. Now, Mackenzie also worked at a Salt Lake City biological testing company, and she had planned on a career in the health sciences with the potential of going to nursing school or even medical school, because she had actually been talking to advisors about what the next steps would look like for nursing school or medical school. Now, she was planning on graduating from the University of Utah in May of 2020. And during her time in college, I don't know if you had this experience in college, but I definitely know it's a thing. She was involved in multiple different dating apps and websites. And one in particular was called Seeking Arrangement. Now, in full disclosure, Seeking Arrangement is actually a website for sugar daddies to meet sugar babies. Okay.
No, I didn't have that experience.
You didn't have that experience. No, I do know. No. It's not funny. It's a way to make money for reals. Like if I was,
shit, I'll do that now.
That's what I'm saying. Like if I was a college student, I probably would have done the same thing. I'm not a college student,
but I'm young.
But there's nothing wrong. I'm going to make this very clear. There is nothing wrong with that type of scenario if that's what you're into.
Love's overrated.
It's not even, no, it's not. It's not. It's a literally way to make money. And sometimes the sugar daddies, they just want arm candy, right? So they'll pay somebody to like go to dinner with them and do all this stuff. Some of them want
in a really small Midwest town.
I mean, that's true.
So no, that wasn't really a thing where I live.
Well, and they have, some people will use it they'll want like young girls to give them sexual favors. Sometimes they'll do it just to have somebody that they can talk to. So it's not necessarily a bad thing.
Shit, I'll be your therapist.
So it's not like, in my mind, I was like, whatever. But I needed to make it clear because the website Seeking Arrangement is actually where Mackenzie met Ayoola. Okay, so
to me it sounds like edible arrangements, like the fucking fruit flower thing.
No, but that's the reason why I said full disclosure, because I just need people to understand that she was a normal, typical like young adult who was doing dating apps like Tinder and that kind of stuff. But she also was making money through Seeking Arrangement, which happens to be the website that she used to meet Ayoola Ajayi. Okay. Now, Ayoola Ajayi, he was born in 1988 in Nigeria. He did have a green card to work and live in the United States. And he had actually studied at University of Utah as well, but obviously not at the same time as Mackenzie because he's literally like 8 years older than her. So he's like, they're not the same age. Now, in 2012, he is actually barred from that campus. And it's for a multitude of reasons. One of it was there was a problem with his visa. Another was that he had allegedly stole an iPad. And so he got kicked off the campus. Well, in 2014, he also was looked at as a possible rape suspect. However, this case is dropped because the woman who originally brought out the charges ends up deciding not to press charges. And in 2015, he's allowed to return to campus. Now, I don't think that the suspected rape happened on campus. But if it did, that's even more fucked up. I'm just going to point that out. But he did return to campus because, honestly, they had resolved the issues with his visa, so he was allowed to continue school. Now, he studied computer science, but he actually never obtained a degree. And he did work as an information technology worker, though. So even though he didn't get the degree, he was working in IT of some sort. He also was briefly in the Army National Guard. So he kind of was a jack of all trades, really. Now, in 2018... he sexually assaults a woman that he had met through an online app. Now, I believe the online app was like a dating app. They meet up. They go back to his house. They're watching TV and he begins to intensely kiss her, which leads to like more touching and it becomes unwanted touching. So the woman actually was like, nope, like that's not what we're doing. And he was like, bet. And so he actually grabs her. She shakes him off and starts to go like get up to leave. And he ends up pinning her down. He actually bites her a total of about 3 times, leaving bruises and bite marks as well. This was reported at the time, but I don't know if she necessarily knew or maybe it was reported. And I'm unclear. I'm going to be very honest. I'm unclear because spoiler alert, he does end up getting jail time for this. However, this is a 2018. He ends up murdering Mackenzie in 2019. So he was not in jail, obviously. So it makes me wonder if like This was brought to the police, but you post bail, you got to wait for your shit. I'm wondering if maybe that's what it was, if he was like waiting for something, or maybe she
dropped the charges.
No, because he ends up getting sentenced for this at the same time, actually, during the same type of, around the same time as that he gets sentenced for the murder. So it obviously comes back to me. I just don't know why it took so long and why he wasn't arrested or whatever.
Not trying to be a dick, but they probably don't think it's as important as a murder.
But she didn't get murdered until a year later.
No, I know. I'm saying, and I'm not shitting on like the cops or anything, but with the justice system being so fucking backed up 24/7, like you were saying, post bail and then fucking takes forever to get shit done.
That's my thing is I don't understand why we're letting people get out of jail that are
that part I've never understood.
That's what this is one of those prime examples why somebody who sexually assaults somebody should not be out of jail while they're waiting for trial. Like, I don't give a shit. They get time served most of the time, so they sit there for fucking 6 months and wait for their trial. And if they get 8 years in prison, they've already served 6 months of it. So I don't understand why we continue to let people get out of jail when they're literally wanted for sexual assault or rape. Like, I don't get that. But moving on. Right about this time, he actually meets Mackenzie through the Seeking Arrangements site. So he starts talking to her. Now, in April of 2019, Ayoola hires a contractor to create a soundproof room. Now, what he tells the contractor is that he wants it to be a secret room that is under the front porch of his home. He wants it to have hooks on the walls that are about head height, and he wants a fingerprint scan entry and completely soundproof. Now, his claim to the contractor was, I need a room that I can go into to hide the alcohol because my girlfriend's Mormon and she's totally against alcohol. So I basically need my own area to go and drink and nobody needs to bother me. Now, this particular contractor was like, he goes, at first when he contacted me, I was like, yes, I can build you a room. No problem. Yes, I can build it underground. No problem. He said, but it started to get sketchy. He goes, even the soundproof, I was like, yeah, okay. He goes, but as soon as he starts talking about the hooks on the wall at head height, he said, and the fingerprint scan, he said, no, thank you. This is not the job for me. And also a person who was hired to clean his home, like where he lived, he had also noted that there were a lot of cameras throughout his home, particularly in his bedroom. Now, I don't know if I know he lived in a home. I don't know if he owned the home, but I know he lived in this home by himself. Like, it wasn't like he was with roommates. He didn't have roommates. Now, Ayoola also happened to be married at some point. He had gotten married. Now, him and his wife at this time, they were estranged. Like, they weren't together. As a matter of fact, they got divorced in 2019, but they were married, but not like, she was like, peace out, motherfucker, right? Now, his ex-wife actually accused him of threatening her. Now, she had said that they had gotten into like a altercation, like a verbal altercation, and he basically told her that he was going to have someone kidnap and kill her. So he threatens her, to which after he does that, she cuts off all communication with him, and she's like, I want nothing to do with you. Now, she also said that he would also get really aggressive while they were married, like were together and married, and that if she didn't do what he wanted her to do or demanded her to do, he would get aggressive with her. Ayoola has also written a book that's called Forge Identity. Now, this is about 2 main characters who are killed and burned. Now, the protagonist in the book is a teenager named Ezekiel. And basically, Ezekiel needs to decide if he will join the ranks of the criminal masterminds in this book, or if he will fight to escape the tyranny that he has been around his whole life. Now, Amazon sold this book for quite some time, but since has removed it because of all this shit.
I would fucking hope so.
Yeah. So on June 17th, 2019, in the early morning hours, Mackenzie arrives at the Salt Lake City airport from California. She had just come back from her grandmother's funeral. Now, she takes a Lyft to Hatch Park, and this is actually where she agreed to meet Ayoola. Now, they had agreed because they had been talking on the Seeking Arrangements website, and they had agreed that when she came back from California, they would officially meet and kind of start that relationship. Now, she gets back in like early morning, like 2 a.m., 3 a.m. type stuff, like really early morning. Maybe her flight even got in at like 12:30, and then by the time she got all of her stuff or whatever, because they agree to meet at this park. Mackenzie tells the Lyft driver, hey, you're going to just bring me to Hatch Park because I'm meeting somebody there. So it's like, it's not a big deal. So this is at 3:00 in the morning. So that's what I mean. Like, she must have come.
First of all, if I was a Lyft driver, I would have been like, ma'am.
Well, so here's what happens. The Lyft driver brings her to this park, and he actually says he sees her get out of the car, and there is another car there, and she gets into the other car, and he said she looked like she knew the person. So I was like, okay, like, off I go. So no big deal. Like, in his, I mean, I'm sure hindsight, you're like, what the fuck? But in the moment, she's very comfortable. She seemed very fine. She shows up there. She looks like she recognizes the guy, you know, happily gets in the car. So everything seems pretty kosher. Now, Mackenzie and Ayoola go back to Ayoola's house after that point. Now, once they are inside the home, Mackenzie has her hands tied behind her back with zip ties and a rope. Now he tries to choke her with his hands, to which Mackenzie tells him to stop, but he continues doing it. Now, I do not know. It is not said. However, there is that part of me that thinks, was she in the beginning like, this was her job, right? Like, she was going to make some money. She meets this guy. But when he started to do actions that she didn't like, he was like, fuck you, girl. Like, it doesn't matter type thing. I don't know if it was like she walked into, I don't know if she walked in the house not expecting anything, you know? Because again, everything that I read, it talks about it sounds almost as if she was like in the beginning, a willing participant, right?
Yeah, like they started doing stuff, and then it was then this is our safe word, and he didn't.
Correct. That's kind of how like a BDSM type thing. Everything I read, not once did somebody say she was forcibly brought into his house or anything like that. So it does make it sound like this was probably their transaction through seeking arrangements, honestly.
But then at some point, she
was like, stop. This isn't what I signed up for. And he said, no. Yeah. Which again, I want to reiterate, I'm not bashing on Mackenzie at all. I'm talking about how absolutely horrific that is for her. If this is what she agreed to and then it went way too far.
This is the point of safe words. This is the point of that kind of stuff, because it is, first of all, whatever you do in your home, in your bedroom, it's your own business. If you want to torture the shit out of somebody or be tortured, I don't give a fuck. But it's just one of those things where that's where those safe words come in, and that's where it's an actual crime versus
there's a
just
respect
a fantasy
factor that he completely disregarded,
and in a way, a trust
and respect factor. So, I want to be very transparent when it comes to this story, because I don't want to get the fucking comments of like, yeah, but she was on Seeking Arrangements being a sugar baby. So the fuck what? Who cares if she was a sugar baby? If I had the body and the fucking brains to be a sugar baby and I wasn't married, I would be too, because that's some money in your pocket. So I want to make it very clear that no point in this whole entire thing am I shaming her for being a sugar baby. And if you are listening to this going, well, she shouldn't have been a sugar baby, you're the fucking problem. Anyways.
You have selective hearing.
You do. Anyways. So she says stop. And he's like, no, I'm not going to stop. Well, I don't even think he said no. He just continues doing what he's doing. At that point, he actually says that he proceeded to roll Mackenzie onto her stomach, and he strangles her with a belt until she stops moving. Now, Mackenzie had also suffered blunt force trauma to the left side of her head as well. Now, it is claimed that after this, Ayoola buried her body and some of her belongings in his backyard. And then he threw the rest of her belongings into the Jordan River. Then the following day, he said he burned her remains in his backyard. Now on June 20th of 2019, so remember, she got home on June 17th. Mackenzie's father ends up calling the Salt Lake City Police Department because he's worried, because he hasn't heard from her. The last thing they had heard was that she had landed at the airport. So he knew that she got back on the 17th, but he's heard nothing else from her. They've tried calling her, contacting her, and it wasn't normal for her not to talk to them for 3 days. So he calls the police in Salt Lake City and basically says, here's what's going on. Could you do a welfare check at her house? So the police go to her home and they find her car is there, but there is no sign of Mackenzie. Now, immediately the police are a little bit concerned because they're like, well, first of all, we have family members calling saying she just got back in town. So yeah, her car would be here because she didn't drive herself to the airport. However, the fact that it doesn't even look like she's come home, that's a little concerning. So they immediately enlist a homicide team of detectives because they're like, we're not fucking around with this. We need to start getting into this shit the way that we should and treat it as a homicide and hope for the best type of scenario. They begin to investigate. Well, as they're investigating timelines of what she did, they discover that she had come in on the airplane at, whatever time, like 1 a.m., 2 a.m., who knows, and that she had taken a lift from the airport. So they go and talk to the Lyft people. Now they end up finding who the Lyft driver is. They contact the Lyft driver and he's like, yes, I did pick her up from the airport. However, she had me drop her off at Hatch Park. And he says, when I dropped her off, there was another vehicle waiting and she happily got into that vehicle. So I really thought she probably I don't know. I don't know what he was thinking. In my mind, I'm probably thinking she was meeting up with like a boyfriend or something and he go into his house and I don't know why whatever. It doesn't matter. The point is that's what happened. And so he's like, I just saw her go and I took off. So even though he had told them this whole story, they were like, well, that sounds a little suspect. So they do some investigations and they actually find that he has zero ties to her disappearance. And they actually used his driving records from that night to prove that he had nothing to do with her murder because they could see, oh, yep, he drove and dropped off at this point. And then after that, he had other calls that he was doing. So he didn't have anything to do with her disappearance. Now, this is like becoming news now, right? People are talking about this girl because, again, she's a college student and that she's missing and nobody knows where she is. This man named Rob Joseph, who happens to be a private investigator but used to be a police officer, is kind of like paying attention. And he's like, what the hell? I met that girl. I know that girl. So he tells the police, I literally met her 3 weeks earlier. I was at a bar. She was there. We kind of were shooting the shit. And she actually had told me that one of the things that she does for money is she does this website called Seeking Arrangements. That's like a sugar daddy, baby daddy thing. Not baby daddy.
Oh, I hope it's not baby daddy.
Sugar daddy.
Sugar baby.
Sugar baby thing. And so he's like, yeah, I think, let me. And so he actually ends up going onto that website, finds her profile and sends it to the police, like emails it like, hey, here's her profile on the Seeking Arrangement. You might want to look into this. This could have something to do with it. Why not? I mean, he's a private investigator. That's his job, right? So they then take this information and they're like, okay, let's start looking through any type of communications, emails, text messages, cell phone, or anything we can to see, is there any connections between her and anybody on any of the dating sites, really, any weird messages, whatever. They do find that she had sent multiple messages to what they deemed to be a burner phone. And the reason it was a burner phone is because it was not linked to anybody's name. There was no name linked to this cell phone account. So they couldn't like, oh, this is so-and-so. So it's a burner phone because it's, non-traceable. However, they were able to link it to a Wi-Fi router. So the phone had been used at a Wi-Fi facility of some sort. So they look into this Wi-Fi router and that leads them to the home of Ayoola Ajayi. Now, upon questioning Ayoola, he claims, well, I actually rent these rooms out in my home for Airbnb. So to be honest with you, that phone that you're looking for could have been part of any one of the people who have stayed at my house in the last couple of weeks. So they're like, okay. Now, later
show us your Airbnb account, bro.
See, and I don't know how that works. Like, I don't know if there's a weird policy around it. I'm not sure, but you're correct.
That would have been the easiest thing to be like, nah, you're fucking lying.
That would have been, well, and maybe he really did do Airbnb. I don't know. But I mean, that would have been the next part. But whatever happened, they extensively talked to him and they extensively talked to his neighbors and stuff. And they walk away with like this suspicion that he had something to do with it, but not enough evidence to really push forward. However, later that same day, Ayoola ends up going into the police station himself. And he says, remember how you guys came to my house to ask me about that Mackenzie woman? And they're like, uh-huh. And he's like, I totally forgot. I have texted her. They're like, oh, really? And he's like, yeah. I think she tried to contact me because I'm on this website called Seeking Arrangements, and I have a profile there, and she has a profile there. And so I did actually talk to her like on that. However, I don't know who she is. But you might find my phone number, linked. You might see messages from us to each other. I forgot to tell you that part. And they're like, okay, thanks. So what do they do with this? They're like, well, then we need to check this motherfucker's phone records. So that gives them probable cause to get a warrant to search his phone records because he just admitted that he had texted and talked to her. Now, because they get his phone records, they are actually able to track his phone via location services pinging off of different areas to Hatch Park at the same exact time and time of day that Mackenzie happened to be there. Which is not a coincidence for anybody because the Lyft driver already said there was only one other car there. So now they know he was at Hatch Park. So this pushes them to actually be able to get a search warrant for his home based on this evidence that they have. Now, when they get into his home, they discover that a mattress is missing from his home. They speak to his neighbors. Now, his neighbors had reported smelling burning coming from the home. And they said that there was like a putrid fucking smell that was coming with the burning. And they were really annoyed by it. And they actually said we had tried to report a fire, like to the fire department coming from his home the same day that woman went missing. They didn't know she went missing, but they're saying the same day you're asking about because we were like, what the fuck is that smell? And we could see some smoke, but we didn't know. Now, they also discovered a freshly dug pile of dirt and in the backyard. And so first thing they do is they send in cadaver dogs because they can see that there's dirt that has been dug up, but there's nothing in the area. So they send in cadaver dogs. Now, the cadaver dogs actually find human tissue. They find burned clothing and a burnt iPhone. Now, the DNA that is from the tissue that they found of the human tissue in the dirt was Mackenzie's. So police actually arrest Ayoola on June 28th, 2019. Now, even though they had arrested him, they still searched for the body of Mackenzie because they didn't know where she was. Now, they received no help from Ayoola, and investigators actually end up continuing to use his cell phone and tracking where the pings had been after their estimation of when she died for June 7th, June 17th, 18th, early morning 18th on until the 28th when he was arrested. And they're going through and finding these pings and they're locating locations that they're trying to look. They do end up finding pings that put him in a place called Logan Canyon, which is about 100 miles north of Salt Lake City, Utah. Now, it is there that they find her burned body with her arms still bound behind her back. Now, it is discovered that Ayoola had actually unburied her body from his backyard after the police came to his house the first time to question him about Mackenzie. So basically, the police show up, ask him questions. When they leave that day, he unburies her body. And
I was shocked that they didn't find her body.
Because he buried her in the backyard.
Right, exactly.
But he then moves her. On June 25th, he moves her body to Logan Canyon. So you figure they got to his house. I don't know exactly the date that they got to, but you figure they didn't even know she was missing until the 20th. They have to do police work. So my guess would be they showed up at his house between probably the 23rd or 24th, right? So he immediately panics, unburies her body, brings her to a different location, takes her to Logan Canyon and leaves her body there. Now, an autopsy is performed on her body, and her cause of death is actually blunt force trauma. So what killed her was not the strangling with the belt. It was actually that whatever had happened that had her hit in the head, she had suffered a slow brain bleed, and it would have killed her regardless. So that is what her cause of death was. Now, Ayoola does eventually admit to murdering Mackenzie. Now, what he says is that he had planned on killing her from the moment they met online. So he never even wanted to do the sugar daddy, sugar baby thing, I don't think. I think he was just looking to kill somebody. Now, he said that when he brought her to his home on June 17th, he had actually disabled the video surveillance system that he has all around his house so as to not have evidence that she ever came to his house. So he absolutely premeditated this. Now, what really sucks is that Ayoola has never said why he did this. And there actually really is not much information on anything that could actually have been a motive, because he did not physically know her prior to the first night they met that he happened to also kill her. Now, it is thought by the prosecutors and some of the detectives have said they actually think that it was a precursor to Ayoola becoming a serial killer.
I was just going to say that.
They think that he killed her to, one, see what it feels like to kill.
And then if he liked it,
and then if he liked it,
mm-hmm.
continue. And to me, honestly, the fact that he was able to like pretend like this never happened, I absolutely believe he would have been
the fact that he was able
killer.
to completely just like, not disengage, but essentially disengage from the situation.
Right.
And essentially just be like, you look like a good pick.
Yep. So I think they stopped a serial killer before he could kill
100%.
anyone else. Now, Ayoola is charged with aggravated murder, aggravated kidnapping, desecration of a body, and he's also charged at this time with the sexual assault of the woman from 2018. He also is charged with child pornography, which was found on his computer. And then on October 7th, 2020, Ayoola pleads guilty to aggravated murder, desecration of the body, and the 2018 sexual assault to avoid the death penalty. So he struck a deal with them and said, like, okay, if you don't put me to death, I will plead guilty to these things. Now, while he's in court, he says, Mr. and Mrs. Lueck, which is Mackenzie's parents, I'm sorry for what I did. I deserve what I am going to get. I know this won't bring her back. To which her father said he had no compassion, that her father says that he has no compassion for Ayoola because he had shown no compassion for his daughter. And he said that he hopes Ayoola spends the rest of his life in prison looking over his shoulder in fear. I'm right there with you, buddy. I'm right there with you. Now, on October 23rd of 2020, Ayoola is sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. And in addition, he is sentenced to 5 years for the desecration of the body, and he is sentenced to 15 years for the sexual assault. So I think what he actually has to do is I think he has to serve the 20 years first, and then it goes into his life without parole. He literally should never get out of jail. If this man gets out of jail, our justice system has completely failed.
Well, if this man gets out of jail, they're just going to release a serial killer because he'll just do it again.
Exactly. The prosecuting attorney said, some people have like a profit motive, anger, whatever. There is not one here other than murder for murder's sake. And that's 100% right. This man killed just to kill. And he's like, to be honest with you, that's what the death penalty's for. So the fact that he was allowed to strike a deal does bother me a little bit, because that is what the death penalty is for, is exactly people like that who just want to kill and don't have remorse and don't care. And him saying, I'm sorry for what I did. No, you're not. You're just not. You cannot make me believe that not even a year after you killed this girl, you're all of a sudden sorry. No, you're not. Now, Ayoola is currently serving his sentence in the Utah State Prison in Draper, Utah. And that is where he will stay, hopefully, for the rest of his life. Again, I really am losing faith in our justice system, because I've done far too many serial killers in particular that have gone to jail. As a matter of fact, Fatal Blend for this week's Fatal Blend, it's the same type of thing. A man kills somebody, he goes to jail. Spoiler alert, if you are a Fatal Blend listener, the person we're talking about, he kills somebody, he gets a 40-year sentence, but only serves 10. So, it's kind of one of those things. It's like our justice system continues to fail. And for what reason, I don't know. So anyways, that is the story of Ayoola Ajayi. And I am so sorry if I pronounce that wrong. I know that
fuck that. I'm not sorry. You don't deserve to be pronounced right.
No, not because of him. I'm saying he's Nigerian. No, he's Nigerian. His name is Nigerian. And I'm sure I butchered it. I tried my best. I literally went on and Googled the pronunciation. I clicked 4 different links that talked about the pronunciation. And that was really how they all sounded. However, I try my best. So apologies if it sounds wrong. And it never sounds as good when it comes out of my boring ass, no accent, English language mouth.
I'm actually shocked they didn't just boot his ass out the United States.
Well, so here's the thing.
Or like that wasn't an option.
So, I mean, to be fair, that's only an option right now because of the current administration.
I was just going to say, I guess now it's an option.
It wasn't. It's never been an option. I mean, it really wasn't an option prior to that because he was here legally.
So it makes me wonder if we'll see if he actually stays.
No, because he was legally here. So when he committed his crime, he had a green card. He lived here. He was legally allowed to be in the United States. So therefore, by the current administration standards, he should be allowed. He should be staying in the United States because he was here legally when he committed his crime. So that's why they probably didn't deport him. And to be honest with you, this is going to be controversial, and I'm not trying to be controversial, but I want to tell you my one take on that. I understand you want to deport the criminals, but the problem with that, and I personally I did one serial killer that exactly that happened. He got deported, and that motherfucker got set free when he got to his country.
Yeah, so that's the one problem. It's not like they don't always uphold
exactly. So
crime.
If they did something bad here, like killed somebody here, where they have life in prison without parole, if you deport them, there is a very good chance that when they get to their country, they're not going to uphold what our law said, and they're going to be set free anyways. So why would you want to deport somebody who is a murderer that's here in the United States? Fucking just have them serve their sentence here then,
right? Because
if you let them go, certain countries they don't have to. Once they're out of the country, they're out of our jurisdiction. They're not required to keep them in jail. Right. Now, some of them can, and some of them will, and some of them will say like, nope, we're going to go ahead and keep him in jail here because that's what his sentence was there. He can finish serving his sentence in our country. But a lot of countries don't do that. So I don't know. I'm not trying to be controversial about it. That's just my take on it is you take these criminals out that killed people, but how do you know they're not just going to get let free as soon as they get into their own country? There is a high possibility of that. I've seen it done on serial killers in particular that I have studied. Anyways, other than that, all I can hope is that this man stays in jail forever. And I'm going to circle back to Brian Kohberger, who just took his plea deal pleading guilty. I hope his ass stays in jail forever because he's obviously not getting the death penalty. That's the best we can hope for. Justice, don't fucking fail us now.
For fucking real.
Anyways, if you like what you hear and if you like listening to the crime bitches talk about the things we talk about, which is true crime, if you listened all the way, you know that. Then make sure you follow us at least on the platform you're listening to so that you can get reminded every Tuesday when we post a new episode. And if you're feeling a little quirky, follow us on all of our socials. We do have an Instagram and a TikTok. Follow us in there. You can DM us and talk to us. I gladly and most wholeheartedly have no problem having conversations with you all. Thank you so much. We continue to see our downloads go up and we appreciate it. Other than that, until next week, catch you on the flip side, bitches.
Bye, bitches.